Did you know that some Washington quarters, even in bad condition, are worth millions of dollars? Today, we're revealing 10 rare state quarters that collectors are desperate to get their hands on. These worn coins could make you richer than you ever imagined. First up, the Washington quarter of 1979, minted at the Denver Mint, denoted by the D Mint mark, is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series, which started in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1979, the coin had long transitioned into a standard circulating coin, composed of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel-clad, giving it the familiar silvery appearance but with a core that is slightly softer than pure nickel, making the coin prone to wear, especially when handled heavily or circulated for decades. The obverse of the 1979 quarter features the classic profile of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932, which was updated slightly in 1976 for the bicentennial, but by 1979 had reverted to the standard design. Washington's profile is crisp in uncirculated coins, but on coins in bad condition, the facial details, hair, and the fine lines in the neck area are often worn smooth, making it sometimes hard to distinguish finer aspects of the engraving. The wordings, "Liberty," above Washington's head and the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left can be partially or mostly worn away depending on the level of wear. The reverse side of the coin, which features the eagle with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, also suffers heavily in coins of poor condition. In bad condition quarters, the feathers on the eagle's wings lose definition, the arrows become flattened, and the details in the olive branches often vanish entirely. Even the United States of America and quarter dollar inscriptions can be partially rubbed off or faint, making the coin appear almost featureless to the casual observer. Because the 1979 D quarter is made for circulation, large numbers of these coins were produced, over 448 million coins, which is significant, meaning that survival rates are high but coins in extremely worn condition are plentiful. From a collector's perspective, a 1979 D quarter in bad condition is generally categorized as G good or AG about good. Grading is based on standards from the American Numismatic Association, where AG4 coin shows heavy wear with major devices and lettering worn flat but outlines still visible, while AG3 coins are even more worn, often with only the date and major lettering faintly discernible. These coins, due to their heavy circulation, are not considered rare, but they are still of interest to collectors who are completing date mint mark sets, as every year and mint mark combination counts. In terms of monetary value, the 1979 D Washington quarter in bad condition is generally worth slightly above its face value, often 25 to 50 cents for AG to AG coin, depending on the market and buyer interest. The value can be marginally higher if the coin exhibits unusual characteristics like double die errors, off-center strikes, or planchette defects, though such anomalies are rare for this year. For most collectors, the main goal is to have a complete set of quarters from 1932 onwards, and even heavily worn quarters contribute to this goal. Historically, the 1979 D quarter represents a time in U.S. coinage where large mintages ensured that quarters were everywhere in circulation. This was a post-Vietnam War era of economic stabilization in the United States. These coins are also interesting because they are made with clad composition, not silver, reflecting the ongoing transition after the removal of silver from quarters in 1965. Because of this, while the coin has low intrinsic metal value, it is historically important as part of the modern era of U.S. coinage. From a collecting strategy perspective, coins in bad condition are often overlooked, but they are valuable for those who are doing educational collections, circulation studies, are teaching children and new collectors about coin wear, design, and mint marks. Even in bad condition, the 1979 D quarter can show interesting toning patterns or surface textures that reflect decades of use in pockets, cash registers, or coin rolls, making each coin unique in its own way. In conclusion, the 1979 D Washington quarter in bad condition is a heavily circulated but historically significant coin. Its value is mostly sentimental or educational, rather than monetary, but it serves as a key component in complete mint sets and is a tangible artifact of late 20th century American coinage. Despite the wear, it remains a representative of the enduring legacy of George Washington on U.S. currency, and even a coin in the worst condition connects collectors to a shared history of everyday commerce in the United States. Collectors who seek coins in perfect condition may pass it by, but those who appreciate the story behind the coin, the passage of decades, and the everyday journey of money will find it fascinating and worth preserving. Next up, the 1990 Washington quarter, minted at the Denver Mint, indicated by the D mint mark, is part of the continuous Washington quarter series, which has been issued since 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1990, the quarter had long transitioned into a purely circulating coin, made with a clad composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, featuring a durable but soft core that is prone to wear, particularly when the coin has been in heavy circulation over decades. The obverse design continues to feature the iconic profile of George Washington, created by John Flanagan in 1932. While the design had minor modifications over the years, by 1990, the classic look remained intact. In coins considered bad condition, the details of Washington's hair, the fine lines around his face, and even parts of his neck and collar are often flattened or completely worn away, making the portrait appear almost featureless to casual observers. The inscriptions, "Liberty," above the head and the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left may also be partially faded or barely legible, which is typical for quarters that have circulated heavily. The reverse of the 1990 Washington quarter continues the traditional bald eagle design, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, designed to symbolize strength and peace. In coins in poor condition, the intricate feathers of the eagle, the arrows, and even the olive branch details can become nearly invisible. The words, "United States of America," and "quarter dollar," can also be faint or partially rubbed off, giving the coin a heavily worn appearance. Despite the wear, even bad condition quarters from 1990 retain their significance because they are part of the modern-era Washington quarters, which are still actively collected. The mintage of the 1990 D quarter was substantial, reflecting the continued high demand for quarters in circulation. Over 430 million coins were produced at the Denver Mint in 1990, making this year abundant in the marketplace. However, coins that have been handled extensively over decades can exhibit heavy wear, scratches, nicks, and discoloration, which significantly affects their grade. Coins in bad condition are usually classified by numismatists as G good or AG about good on the American Numismatic Association grading scale. AG4 coin shows heavy wear but retains the basic outlines of the design, while an AG3 coin might be so worn that only the date and major inscriptions are partially visible. For collectors completing a Denver Mint set of 1990 quarters, even a heavily circulated example is important because it ensures every mint mark is represented. From a value perspective, the 1990 D quarter in bad condition is typically worth only slightly above its face value. In most cases, a heavily worn G or AG coin might fetch around 25 to 75 cents, depending on the buyer and coin market fluctuations. Unlike rarer quarters from earlier decades or those with error varieties, the 1990D Washington quarter in poor condition generally does not command a high premium. However, exceptions exist for coins with unusual errors, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or planchette defects, which can increase value dramatically even if the coin is worn. These are rare and highly sought after by specialized collectors. Historically, the 1990D quarter represents a period in U.S. coinage where quarters were still heavily used in daily transactions, including vending machines, parking meters, and bank exchanges. This era predates widespread adoption of digital payments, so coins were an essential part of everyday commerce. Despite being common, the 1990D quarter connects collectors to a very tangible piece of late 20th century American history, reflecting economic conditions, minting practices, and coinage standards of the time. Even in bad condition, the coin demonstrates the durability of the copper-nickel clad composition over decades of circulation. For collectors, coins in poor condition offer educational value. They demonstrate how wear and circulation affect coins over time, the importance of mint marks, and the subtle differences between coins from different mints or years. Even a worn 1990D Washington quarter can be used in teaching sets, circulation studies, or beginner collections, where completing a full set is more important than the coin's individual grade. Coins like this also occasionally show unique toning, scratches, or circulation marks, giving each one a story and a character that new coins or mint-state coins cannot replicate. In conclusion, the 1990D Washington quarter in bad condition is a heavily circulated but historically significant coin. While its monetary value is modest, usually slightly above face value, it is an essential piece for collectors aiming to complete date and mint mark sets. Its worn condition tells the story of decades of use in commerce, showing the passage of time and the enduring presence of George Washington on U.S. currency. Even when heavily worn, the coin is more than just metal, it is a symbol of continuity, history, and the everyday life of the United States in the 1990s, making it a fascinating and valuable addition to any comprehensive coin collection. Next up, the 1995 Washington quarter, minted at the Denver Mint, distinguished by the D Mint mark, belongs to the modern Washington quarter series, which has been in continuous production since 1932 to honor George Washington, the first President of the United States. By 1995, the coin was firmly part of the circulating coinage system, composed of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel-clad, giving it a silvery finish but with a soft core that is particularly prone to wear. This composition allows the coin to endure decades of circulation, but coins that have been in circulation extensively, especially in bad condition, often display flattened or indistinct design features. The obverse of the 1995D quarter continues the classic profile of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932. Washington is depicted facing left, with carefully detailed hair and a dignified expression. On coins in poor condition, however, most of these details are obscured. The hair becomes a smooth mass, the facial features are barely discernible, and the fine lines around the neck and collar are flattened. The inscriptions, "Liberty," above his head and, "In God We Trust," to the left are often faint or partially worn off, and the date 1995 may be the only part clearly readable. In extreme wear, even the mint mark D can be shallow, making it difficult to distinguish without close inspection. The reverse side of the coin features the classic bald eagle design, with outstretched wings perched on a bundle of arrows, and olive branches beneath to symbolize peace. In heavily circulated, bad condition coins, the intricate details of the eagle's feathers are often smoothed down, and the arrows and olive branch lose all definition. The words, United States of America, along the top edge, and quarter dollar, along the bottom, are similarly affected, with letters often rounded or barely legible. Despite this wear, even heavily worn 1995 D quarters maintain historical significance as representatives of late 20th century U.S. coinage, which was abundant but increasingly studied by collectors. The mintage numbers for 1995 D quarters were substantial. The Denver Mint produced over 373 million coins that year, reflecting a continued high demand for quarters in circulation. The massive mintage ensures that even coins in poor condition are relatively common and easy to obtain. Coins in bad condition are typically graded G good or AG about good on the American Numismatic Association scale, where heavy wear has flattened most design elements but left the basic outline visible. For collectors completing a complete set of Denver Mint quarters or filling date and mint slots in state and national collections, even a worn 1995 D quarter is a vital inclusion. From a collector's and market perspective, a 1995 D quarter in bad condition usually holds value only slightly above face value, typically around 25 to 50 cents. Coins in this grade are generally not sought after for their monetary value alone, as they are common. However, exceptions can arise in cases of error coins, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or planchette defects. These errors can make even a badly worn quarter collectible and significantly increase its market price. While the 1995 D quarter did not have major known rare errors, individual coins occasionally appear with unusual characteristics that attract numismatists. Historically, the 1995 D quarter reflects the era of pre-digital currency dominance, where quarters were widely used in everyday transactions, vending machines, parking meters, laundromats, and bank exchanges. Coins in circulation during this time were handled constantly, which explains the prevalence of heavy wear and the poor condition of many surviving specimens. Despite the wear, the 1995 D quarter represents a period of economic stability in the United States, bridging the late 20th century coinage era and the modern era of U.S. Mint innovations. Collectors often study bad condition coins for educational purposes, examining how circulation affects a coin over time. Even in poor condition, the 1995 D quarter can show unique toning patterns, scratches, or surface marks, giving each coin its own story. These heavily circulated coins can also help new collectors learn about mint marks, composition, and design evolution without requiring significant investment. In many cases, the focus is on completing a collection rather than seeking high value, making even bad condition coins like the 1995 D quarter indispensable for full date and mint mark sets. In conclusion, the 1995 D Washington quarter in bad condition is a widely circulated, historically significant coin. Its monetary value is modest, but its importance in collections lies in completing sets and representing the state of U.S. coinage in the mid-1990s. The heavy wear tells the story of everyday commerce, showing the coin's journey through decades of circulation. While the eagle in Washington's profile may be barely recognizable, the coin still connects collectors to a tangible piece of history, serving as a reminder of the enduring legacy of George Washington on American currency and the continuing story of U.S. coinage in the late 20th century. Even in its poorest condition, the 1995 D quarter is a symbol of continuity, history, and the unbroken tradition of coins that have passed through countless hands over decades. Next up, the 1977 Washington quarter, minted at the Denver Mint and identified by the D Mint mark, is part of the continuous Washington quarter series that began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1977, the Washington quarter was firmly established as a standard circulating coin, made with a clad composition of 91.67% copper and 8.33% nickel, giving the coin its silvery appearance but also a soft interior that can wear down easily when handled extensively. Coins in bad condition, often graded G good or AG about good, typically show extreme wear where major design elements are flattened, the finer lines in the obverse and reverse are smoothed, and inscriptions are partially or barely readable. On the obverse, the classic portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932, depicts him facing left with detailed hair, a prominent jawline, and dignified features. On a worn 1977 D-quarter, most of these details are heavily diminished. The hair lines appear as faint streaks, facial features are almost smooth, and the lines around the neck and collar are nearly gone. The inscriptions, Liberty, at the top of the coin and, In God We Trust, to the left of the portrait may be partially visible or just barely discernible. The date 1977 is often one of the most recognizable features remaining, although in extremely worn examples, even this can be partially rubbed off. The D mint mark, located just to the right of Washington's ponytail, can be shallow or faint, requiring careful examination to confirm the mint origin. The reverse of the coin features the traditional bald eagle design, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing military strength and peace. In coins that have circulated heavily and are in bad condition, the eagle's detailed feathers are usually flattened, the arrows and olive branch details may merge into a smooth surface, and the inscriptions, United States of America, along the top and $quarter, along the bottom can be worn down, appearing rounded or faint. Even with extreme wear, the coin retains its historical significance as a representation of late 20th century American currency, a tangible piece of everyday life in the United States during the 1970s. The 1977 D-quarter had a very high mintage, with over 392 million coins produced by the Denver Mint. This large number ensures that even heavily worn coins are plentiful and relatively easy to find in the market. Bad condition coins from this year are often collected primarily to complete date and mint mark sets, rather than for their intrinsic value, since most of these coins carry a value only slightly above their face value. Coins in grades G4 good or AG3 about good are typically worth 25 to 50 cents, depending on their condition and collector demand. While the 1977 D-quarter is not rare, certain factors, such as unusual errors like off-center strikes, double dies, or planchette defects, can make individual coins highly collectible and increase their value even if the coin is worn. Historically, the 1977 D-quarter reflects a period of stable U.S. coinage in which quarters were an essential part of daily commerce. They circulated widely in vending machines, banks, retail transactions, and public transportation systems. Coins in heavy circulation inevitably develop surface scratches, discoloration, and wear, which give each coin a unique story of its passage through multiple hands over decades. This makes even bad condition coins historically interesting, as they reflect the life and movement of money in everyday American society. Collectors often value bad condition quarters for educational purposes. They illustrate how circulation impacts a coin's features, the importance of mint marks, and the differences between coins from different years or mints. Even heavily worn 1977 D-quarters may display unique toning patterns, contact marks, or residual textures, which are of interest to collectors who study the physical effects of circulation. These coins are also important for beginner collectors who want to complete a set without investing in higher-grade coins, since they provide an affordable way to include every date and mint mark in a collection. In terms of numismatic context, the 1977 D-quarter represents the post-silver era of U.S. quarters, after the removal of silver from 1965 onwards. The coin's composition, durability, and widespread circulation make it a classic example of modern U.S. coinage. Its wear patterns provide insight into the physical and chemical effects of decades of handling, exposure to air, moisture, and other environmental factors, which can subtly change the color and texture of the coin's surface. Even in bad condition, the 1977 D quarter remains a tangible link to American history, commerce, and everyday life in the late 20th century. In conclusion, the 1977 D Washington quarter in bad condition is a heavily circulated but historically important coin. Its monetary value is minimal, typically only slightly above face value, but its significance lies in completing collections, understanding circulation wear, and preserving a piece of U.S. numismatic history. The flattening of details on both the obverse and reverse tells the story of decades of handling and circulation, while the coin's continued presence in collections ensures that the legacy of George Washington and the historical continuity of U.S. coinage are preserved. Even in its poorest condition, the 1977 D quarter is a symbol of history, commerce, and the enduring journey of American currency through time. Next up, the 1965 Washington quarter is a historically significant coin for several reasons. First, it marks the first year after the U.S. Mint removed silver from quarters, following the Coinage Act of 1965. Prior to this, quarters were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, but rising silver prices and hoarding in the early 1960s made it unsustainable to continue producing circulating silver coins. Starting in 1965, the Washington quarter was minted in a copper-nickel-clad composition, specifically an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a core of pure copper. This change significantly altered the coin's weight, feel, and color. The silver-like shine remained, but the weight dropped slightly from 6.25 grams for silver quarters to 5.67 grams for clad quarters, and the sound when dropped also became duller compared to the higher-pitched ring of a silver coin. The obverse of the 1965 quarter continues to feature the classic John Flanagan portrait of George Washington, which had been in use since 1932. Washington faces left, with carefully sculpted hair and a dignified profile. In coins that are not bad condition, graded fine F to extremely fine XF, or even about uncirculated O, the details of the hair, the facial contours, the jawline, and the lines around the neck remain mostly intact. The inscriptions, Liberty, at the top and, In God We Trust, to the left of Washington's portrait are crisp and fully readable, and the date 1965 appears clearly at the bottom. The mint mark, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or absent for Philadelphia, can also be observed clearly just below the wreath near the eagle or next to the date on some designs depending on production location. In not bad condition coins, the mint mark is well defined, helping collectors easily identify the origin of the coin. The reverse of the 1965 quarter features the traditional bald eagle design, perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath. In coins in decent condition, the eagle's feathers are clearly visible, the arrows are sharply defined, and the texture of the olive branches is apparent. The inscriptions, United States of America, along the top and quarter dollar at the bottom are intact and legible. Even minor surface abrasions or light circulation marks do not significantly diminish the visual appeal of these coins when compared to heavily circulated examples, meaning the overall aesthetic and historical integrity of the design is preserved. The mintage for 1965 quarters was substantial. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1.6 billion coins, while Denver produced approximately 949 million, making it one of the most widely circulated years in the Washington Quarter series. This was part of a massive effort to provide adequate coins for circulation, as coin shortages had been a concern in the early 1960s. Because of the massive numbers produced, 1965 quarters are generally common in today's market, though coins in better condition are more valued by collectors. Coins in fine to extremely fine condition are significantly more desirable than heavily worn examples because they retain most design details, making them excellent candidates for date and mint collections, educational sets, and historical preservation purposes. From a numismatic and collector's perspective, the 1965 quarter in not bad condition is an example of a coin that bridges the end of the silver era and the beginning of modern clad coinage. While the silver content was removed, the coin still carries the traditional Washington profile and bald eagle design, retaining continuity with decades of U.S. coinage. In terms of value, most 1965 quarters in circulated but well-preserved condition are worth slightly above face value, generally ranging from 50 cents to a few dollars. Depending on grade, collector demand, and surface quality, coins in about uncirculated or mint state condition can fetch higher premiums, particularly when certified by grading services such as PCGS or NGC. Historically, the 1965 quarter reflects the economic and social conditions of mid-20th century America. The coin circulated widely in vending machines, laundromats, banks, and everyday transactions, representing the practical face of money in a rapidly modernizing society. Collectors today often value these coins not just for their face value but also as a representation of U.S. monetary history, the shift from silver to clad coinage, and the durability of the Washington quarter design that had endured for more than 3 decades by that point. Coins in good condition also serve as excellent teaching tools, helping beginners and young collectors understand mint marks, coin composition, and the effects of circulation wear over time. The 1965 quarter also offers insight into minting technology and industrial standards of the time. With the transition to clad composition, the mint had to adjust striking pressure, die design, and planchet preparation. Coins in good condition often retain sharp rim edges, clear lettering, and consistent thickness, demonstrating the craftsmanship and quality control applied during production. Even after decades in circulation, a 1965 quarter in decent condition can showcase the original minting techniques, such as die polish lines, strike depth, and edge texture, providing a tangible link to mid-20th century minting processes. In conclusion, the 1965 Washington quarter in not bad condition is much more than a piece of copper-nickel metal. It is a historically significant artifact that represents a key transition in U.S. coinage, bridges the silver and modern eras, and preserves the timeless designs of George Washington and the bald eagle. Coins in this condition maintain most design elements, sharp inscriptions, and clear mint marks, making them invaluable for completing collections, educational purposes, and historical preservation. They demonstrate both the continuity and evolution of U.S. coins while telling the story of everyday commerce, minting innovation, and the enduring appeal of the Washington Quarter series. Even decades after its release, the 1965 quarter remains a cornerstone of American numismatics and a tangible symbol of mid-20th century history, economy, and culture. Next up, the 1973 Washington Quarter with the D Mint mark, produced by the Denver Mint, is part of the long-running Washington Quarter series that began in 1932 to honor George Washington, the first President of the United States. By 1973, the Washington Quarter had already become one of the most familiar and widely circulated coins in American daily life. This coin belongs firmly to the post-silver era, as all quarters minted from 1965 onward were struck in a copper-nickel clad composition, replacing the earlier 90% silver coins. The 1973 D quarter is composed of an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, giving the coin a silver-like appearance but with no intrinsic precious metal value. This composition is durable but still vulnerable to heavy wear, especially when a coin spends decades in circulation, resulting in examples that today are found in bad condition. The obverse design of the 1973 D Washington quarter features the famous left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. This portrait had been in use for over 40 years by 1973 and was deeply embedded in American visual culture. In bad condition, the obverse of the coin often shows extreme wear. Washington's hair, which originally contained fine strands and texture, becomes smooth and flat. The facial features, such as the nose, cheekbone, and jawline, are worn down, sometimes blending into the surrounding field of the coin. The inscriptions, "Liberty," at the top and "In God We Trust," to the left of the portrait are often weak or partially missing on badly worn coins. The date, 1973, is usually one of the strongest remaining elements, though in very heavily circulated examples even the numbers may appear thin or incomplete. The D mint mark, located just to the right of Washington's ponytail, can be faint or shallow in bad condition, requiring close inspection to confirm the Denver origin. The reverse side of the 1973 D quarter displays the traditional bald eagle with wings spread, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches beneath, symbolizing both military readiness and peace. This reverse design remained standard until 1998. On quarters in bad condition, the eagle's feathers lose nearly all detail, appearing as smooth, flat shapes. The arrows and olive branches may merge into the background, and the eagle's breast and wings often show heavy flattening. The inscriptions, "United States of America," and "Quarter Dollar," can be weak, rounded, or partially worn away. Despite this heavy wear, the overall outline of the eagle usually remains visible, allowing the coin to still be identified. The mintage of the 1973 D Washington quarter was very high, with the Denver Mint producing over 232 million coins that year. This large production reflects the strong demand for quarters during the early 1970s, a time when coins were heavily used in vending machines, parking meters, public transportation, laundromats, and everyday retail transactions. Because of this enormous mintage and decades of circulation, worn examples are extremely common today. Coins in bad condition are typically graded AG, about good, or G, good, on the standard numismatic grading scale. In these grades, the coin shows heavy wear across all surfaces, but the date and major design outlines remain visible. From a value standpoint, a 1973 D Washington quarter in bad condition is generally worth face value or only slightly more, usually around 25 to 50 cents. Because the coin contains no silver and was minted in large quantities, it does not command a premium unless it has a minting error, such as an off-center strike, broad strike, clipped planchet, or a rare die variety. Even then, the condition still plays a role in determining value. For most collectors, the value of a worn 1973 D quarter lies not in profit but in completing a date and mint mark set of Washington quarters. Historically, the 1973 D quarter represents a fascinating period in U.S. history. The early 1970s were marked by economic change, inflation concerns, and shifts in monetary policy. Coins from this era circulated heavily, and their worn surfaces tell a story of constant use in everyday American life. A badly worn 1973 D quarter may have passed through thousands of hands, been used in countless transactions, and traveled across multiple states over decades. Each scratch, flattened detail, and worn edge reflects this long journey through commerce. From a collector's educational perspective, bad condition coins like the 1973 D quarter are extremely useful. They help new collectors understand how coins wear over time, how grading works, and why condition is so important in determining value. These coins are often used in starter collections, teaching kits, or historical displays, where affordability and authenticity matter more than pristine condition. Some collectors also enjoy worn coins for their character, as they represent the real, everyday use of money rather than untouched mint products. In the broader context of Washington quarter collecting, the 1973 D quarter fills an essential slot in the post-1965 clad era. While it is not rare, it is a necessary piece for anyone aiming to assemble a complete collection spanning decades of U.S. coinage. Even in bad condition, it preserves the enduring image of George Washington and the classic eagle reverse, reinforcing the continuity of American currency design across generations. In conclusion, the Washington quarter 1973 D in bad condition is a heavily circulated but historically meaningful coin. Its monetary value is minimal, but its historical, educational, and collection value is undeniable. The worn surfaces tell a story of daily life in 1970s America, while the coin itself stands as a durable artifact of U.S. minting history. Even at its lowest grade, the 1973 D quarter remains a powerful reminder of how ordinary objects like coins can carry extraordinary stories through time, linking the past to the present through decades of continuous use. Next up, the 1992 Washington quarter with the P Mint mark, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, is part of the long-running Washington quarter series that began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, the first President of the United States. By 1992, the Washington quarter had already become one of the most recognizable and widely used coins in American circulation. This particular coin belongs to the modern clad era of U.S. coinage, a period that began in 1965 when silver was removed from circulating quarters due to rising precious metal prices and widespread hoarding. As a result, the 1992 P quarter is composed of a copper-nickel clad structure, consisting of outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a core of pure copper. This composition gives the coin its familiar silvery appearance but also makes it susceptible to visible wear after decades of use, especially in examples now found in bad condition. The obverse design of the 1992 P Washington quarter features the iconic left-facing portrait of George Washington, created by sculptor John Flanagan. By 1992, this design had been in continuous use for 60 years, making it one of the longest-running portrait designs in U.S. coinage history. In coins that are in bad condition, the obverse often shows severe wear. The fine details of Washington's hair, which originally displayed individual strands and depth, are worn smooth. The contours of the face, such as the cheek, jawline, and nose, may appear flattened or blended into the background. The inscriptions, "Liberty," along the top edge and "In God We Trust," to the left of the portrait are often weak, partially missing, or worn thin. The date, 1992, usually remains visible, as it is one of the deeper elements of the design, but in extremely worn examples, even the numerals can appear faint. The P Mint mark, located just to the right of Washington's ponytail, may be shallow or difficult to see due to extensive circulation wear. The reverse side of the 1992 P quarter displays the traditional bald eagle design, with the eagle perched on a bundle of arrows and olive branches beneath, symbolizing strength and peace. This reverse design was standard for Washington quarters until it was replaced by the state quarters program in 1999. On badly worn coins, The eagle's feathers lose almost all detail, appearing as smooth, flattened shapes. The arrows and olive branches often blend together, and the inscriptions, United States of America, and quarter dollar, can become weak or partially illegible. Despite this heavy wear, the overall outline of the eagle usually remains identifiable, allowing the coin to be recognized even in poor condition. The mintage of the 1992 P. Washington quarter was very high, with the Philadelphia Mint producing over 460 million coins that year. This large mintage reflects the continued demand for quarters in everyday commerce during the early 1990s. At that time, quarters were heavily used in vending machines, parking meters, toll booths, laundromats, and public transportation systems. Because of this widespread use, many 1992 P quarters experienced intense circulation, resulting in the heavily worn examples commonly seen today. Coins in bad condition are typically graded AG, about good, or G, good, according to standard numismatic grading scales. In these grades, the coin shows extensive wear across both obverse and reverse, but the date and major design outlines remain visible. From a market value perspective, a 1992 P. Washington quarter in bad condition is generally worth face value or only slightly above, typically around 25 to 50 cents. Since the coin contains no silver and was minted in extremely large quantities, it does not command a premium unless it features a notable mint error. Errors such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchettes, or double die varieties can significantly increase value, even if the coin is worn. However, such errors are rare, and most 1992 P quarters in bad condition are collected primarily for set completion rather than investment. Historically, the 1992 P quarter represents the final decade of the classic Washington quarter design before the introduction of the 50-state quarters program in 1999. Coins from this era reflect a time when physical currency was still central to daily transactions, before the widespread adoption of digital payments. A badly worn 1992 P quarter may have circulated for decades, passing through thousands of hands and countless transactions. Each scratch, worn edge, and flattened detail tells the story of its journey through everyday American life in the late 20th century. From a collector and educational standpoint, bad condition coins like the 1992 P quarter are extremely valuable as teaching tools. They help collectors understand how coins wear over time, how grading works, and why condition plays such a critical role in determining value. These coins are often used in starter collections, educational displays, or historical demonstrations, where affordability and authenticity are more important than pristine condition. For many collectors, completing a full Washington quarter set, regardless of condition, is a major goal, and the 1992 P quarter is an essential part of that journey. In the broader context of U.S. numismatics, the 1992 P Washington quarter in bad condition serves as a reminder of the durability and practicality of modern clad coinage. While it lacks the intrinsic silver value of earlier quarters, it compensates with historical significance, representing decades of continuity in American coin design and everyday commerce. Even in poor condition, the coin preserves the enduring image of George Washington and the iconic eagle reverse, reinforcing the cultural and historical importance of the Washington Quarter series. In conclusion, the Washington Quarter 1992 P in bad condition is a common but historically meaningful coin. Its monetary value is minimal, but its educational, historical, and collection significance is substantial. The heavy wear visible on the coin reflects decades of circulation and daily use, while its continued presence in collections ensures that the legacy of the Washington Quarter endures. Even at the lowest grades, the 1992 P quarter stands as a tangible artifact of late 20th century American life, linking past commerce to present-day numismatic interest. Next up, the 1997 Washington quarter with the P Mint mark, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, belongs to the final years of the classic Washington quarter series, which began in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1997, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for 65 years, making it one of the most enduring and recognizable coin designs in United States history. The 1997 P quarter is part of the modern clad coinage era, which started in 1965 when silver was removed from circulating quarters. As a result, the 1997 P quarter is composed of a copper-nickel clad structure, with outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core. This composition gives the coin a silver-like appearance but no intrinsic precious metal value, and over long periods of circulation it shows visible wear, especially in coins that are now found in bad condition. The obverse front design of the 1997 P Washington quarter features the famous left-facing portrait of George Washington, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. This portrait had remained largely unchanged for decades, symbolizing stability and continuity in U.S. coinage. In a bad condition 1997 P quarter, the obverse typically shows heavy wear. The fine details of Washington's hair are usually worn smooth, with individual strands no longer visible. The facial features, nose, cheek, mouth, and jawline, are flattened and blended into the field of the coin. The inscriptions, "Liberty," across the top and "In God We Trust," to the left of Washington's portrait may appear weak, partially worn, or thin. The date, 1997, is often the clearest remaining element because it was struck relatively deeply, but even the numerals can show thinning in extreme wear. The P Mint mark, located just to the right of Washington's ponytail, may be faint or difficult to see on heavily circulated examples, requiring close inspection to confirm that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The reverse back design of the 1997 Washington quarter features the traditional bald eagle with wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbols of strength and peace. This reverse design had been used for decades and would soon be replaced in 1999 by the State Quarters program, making coins like the 1997 P quarter part of the final chapter of the original Washington quarter era. In coins found in bad condition, the eagle's feathers are usually worn flat, with little to no texture remaining. The arrows and olive branches often blend together, losing all sharp definition. The inscriptions, "United States of America," and "Quarter Dollar," may be weak, rounded, or partially illegible due to decades of circulation. Despite this heavy wear, the overall outline of the eagle remains visible, allowing the coin to be identified even in poor condition. The mintage of the 1997 P Washington quarter was extremely high, with the Philadelphia Mint producing over 500 million coins that year. This massive production reflects the heavy demand for quarters in everyday American commerce during the late 1990s. At that time, quarters were used constantly in vending machines, parking meters, toll booths, laundromats, public transportation systems, and retail transactions. Because of this intense and prolonged use, many 1997 P quarters were subjected to years of wear, resulting in the heavily circulated, bad condition examples commonly seen today. Coins in this condition are typically graded AG about good or G good under standard numismatic grading systems, meaning that while the coin is heavily worn, the date and main design outlines are still visible. From a value perspective, A 1997p Washington quarter in bad condition is generally worth face value or only slightly above, usually around 25 to 50 cents. Since the coin contains no silver and was minted in very large numbers, it does not carry a significant premium. However, value can increase if the coin displays a minting error, such as an off-center strike, broad strike, clipped planchet, or unusual die defect. Even then, condition still affects price, but error coins can attract strong interest from collectors. For most people, however, the 1997p quarter in bad condition is collected primarily for completing a Washington quarter date and mint mark set, rather than for investment. Historically, the 1997p quarter represents the end of an era in U.S. coinage. Just 2 years later, the introduction of the 50-state quarters program would transform quarter collecting and introduce entirely new reverse designs. Coins like the 1997p quarter are therefore important as some of the last widely circulated examples of the classic eagle reverse. A badly worn 1997p quarter may have circulated for decades, passing through thousands of hands and countless transactions, each leaving behind marks, scratches, and wear that tell the story of everyday American life at the end of the 20th century. From a collector and educational standpoint, bad condition coins like the 1997p Washington quarter are extremely useful. They help collectors understand circulation wear, grading standards, and mint mark identification. These coins are commonly used in beginner collections, teaching kits, and historical demonstrations, where affordability is important and pristine condition is not required. For many collectors, completing a full Washington quarter collection, regardless of condition, is a major achievement, and the 1997p quarter plays a necessary role in that journey. In the broader context of U.S. numismatics, the 1997p Washington quarter in bad condition symbolizes the durability and practicality of modern American coinage. While it lacks the silver content and intrinsic value of earlier quarters, it makes up for this with historical importance, representing continuity, stability, and everyday use. The worn surfaces reflect real economic life, not just mint production, and connect modern collectors to the lived experience of millions of people who use these coins daily. In conclusion, the Washington quarter 1997p in bad condition is a common but historically meaningful coin. Its monetary value is modest, but its historical, educational, and collection significance is substantial. The heavy wear visible on the coin tells a story of decades of circulation, while its place in the final years of the classic Washington quarter design gives it lasting importance. Even in its poorest condition, the 1997p quarter remains a tangible artifact of late 20th century American commerce, preserving the enduring legacy of George Washington on U.S. coinage and connecting the past to the present through everyday money.